Hi, now we're back for our next discussion, and this will be on the interval of the sixth. So, it will be the sixth note of the scale, C, D, we're using C as example, so C, D, E, F, G, A. So, a major sixth would be the sixth note of the scale. Now, a minor sixth, 1/2 step below, would be A flat. So here's major sixth, minor sixth, and augmented sixth would be 1/2 step above A sharp, which of course is the same as B flat, but in theory we wouldn't say B flat because that would be the seventh note, so we say A sharp. Now that has an open sound to it, so just listen to that sound a second. Our first chord that we're going to look at would be C, major sixth, A, and then a major sixth above that, F sharp. So let's listen to that chord. Let's move it a little bit. D, E, back to D, back to C. Now, that actually becomes a diminished chord. Now, diminished chords are built on minor thirds. And a minor third inverted is a major seventh. So in theory, if you're not familiar with it, but it's C to A would be a major sixth, but A to C would be a minor third. So diminished chords, remember I talked about that before, they're harsh. Used in classical music a great deal for tension. Not too much for popular music. In jazz, they will use a half diminished. That would be a minor seventh with a flat fifth note. But we'll talk about that later. But for now, just that would be, so a major seventh would be a diminished chord. So that would be a little harsh. So now let's look at another variation, a minor sixth. So we have C to A flat, and then F flat, which would be E. Now that's a harsh chord, but I like that chord. It's very colorful chord. Very interesting chord. So in effect, it's really a C chord with an augmented fifth, if we were to give it a normal label. The next chord would be a major sixth, and then a minor sixth. So that would be this. And that would translate to a F chord, F-A-C, F-A-C. So that's a major chord. When you mix intervals, you get different types of chords, because chords are built on different types of intervals. So that's a very bright sound. The next one would be C minor major sixth. So that would be like this. So we'd have C, A flat, another C, and an F. That would translate to an F minor chord. G minor, A minor. So when we're talking about a lot of sixths, we're talking about really traditional chords. Now this next one, C, augmented sixth, and another augmented sixth. That's an interesting one. That would be like a C7 sharp 5 without the third, if you were going to give it a label. But as I said in my book, I'm looking at these as colors, not so much as traditional chords. And as you've seen in the previous lessons, we're not moving them in the same progression. I mean, we could go by the bass note, say C, E flat, D, C would propel the chord. Whereas, you know, I personally like having the melody note drive the chord. So let's say we were to do something like this. So a whole range of colors in there. This next one I really like a lot. This would be C major sixth and an augmented sixth, this would translate to like almost a C6 without the third of the chord, if you were traditional. I like this one because of its openness. So I find this chord could be very useful substituting for a C chord, let's say, instead of a plain C. By leaving out the third, it's very ambiguous, and so it really could be used really for that hazy kind of feeling, color. And if you moved it by the, let's say by the bass, let's say we're going to play C, F, and G. With this, we would translate to C, F, and G. That's really nice. And then if you add notes in, let's say we added I'm going to put the B pedal, because on this chord C, A, and G you have open notes in between, and that really will color the chord. So let's put the B in there. I personally think that has a lot of potential. So what I've done there is I have a basic C, E, and G. I have a B pedal tone that stays throughout. And then I'm adding notes in with my pinky. So for the ambient guitarists, maybe they would just let that, just sustain, last for a long time. Let that ring, and maybe above that add other chords or some type of a melody that would complement that. So of all the 6 chords in this category, I think that's my favorite for possible use. Remember, any of these chords in my book can substitute for a C chord. So, which would give you unlimited amount of chords, because if any one could be a C and then you move them up, you have thousands and thousands of chords. Actually, I calculated it would be about 22,000 chords, colors. So that would be in the book I mentioned, the alternative chords and progressions for the 21st century. So I really like that one. Another one would be C augmented minor sixth, and that would look like this. So that would be C, B flat, and G. Almost like a C, traditional C minor 7, but without the third, which really opens the chord to many different variations and interpretations, how this chord works. So that's an interesting chord. Again, for soloing, for progressions, for ostinato patterns, recurring pattern. Great potential. The next one is C minor augmented sixth. That would be C, A flat, another C, and a F sharp. That has a lot of color. That's very ambiguous, very dissonant in a way. If you like that color, I like it. I think it could be very useful. And remember, dissonance is relative. If you're playing a lot of dissonant chords, and then you come to a regular chord, you get that big color contrast. So that could be very useful. And the last one of mixing sixth would be C, augmented sixth, and then a minor sixth. C, B flat, G flat. Again, very dissonant. If you let that ring out with a lot of repetition, echo, very, very nice chord. So the sixth chords are very interesting. Some of them just create regular traditional chords, major, minor. But a few of them, with their open sound, really lend themselves, I think, to a lot of possibilities. Also, too, I personally like when you skip strings, it leaves room for pedal tones in the middle. Let me go back to the C major augmented sixth, the C, the A, and the G. Now, I did the B before. Let's say this D. Let's say I put that in the middle of this chord. Oh, I'm sorry, I didn't mean to say that. The D, we would have to take our finger off. So we have C, E, G, and D. Let me just go back a second. That wasn't the chord I wanted to do. Let's do that again. That chord I wanted was C, A, and G with the D in the middle. And the B. So when you have open notes in between, you can really color the chord. And later on in a future lesson, we are going to do bitonal chords where you're playing one chord. Let's say we're doing this. And through the use of a loop station, we're going to play other chords either below it or in between it or above it. So let's say we had this chord, traditional G chord, but I like this voicing G, D, and B. I really like that voicing. And maybe above it, we're going to use some of the non-traditional chords or traditional chords, moving above it, while this one maybe is playing like that. So we're going to talk about that, bitonal chords. If you had two guitar players, or a piano and a guitar, a keyboard and a guitar, or a loop station, this will give you an incredible amount of sounds and colors. So I'm going to put that chart up now. This will be a chart of the chords I just played. You know, take a look at it, and I think the working with six will give you a lot of ideas. So great, let's take a look at that chord sheet, and then we'll be ready for our next lesson. Here's the chart that I just played from. So the first chord is C major major sixth. You can see that. Then C minor minor sixth. Then C major minor sixth. And then C minor major sixth. C augmented augmented sixth. This is the one I said I really liked a lot. C major augmented sixth. That one, see, the possibilities are really very good for that. Either have the bass note guide you or the melody note, especially because it's on the first string there. And then the augmented minor sixth, C minor augmented sixth, and then augmented minor sixth. So any of these chords, this is the root. So as you move it up the neck of the guitar, you get C, C sharp, D, so on. You get 10, 12 chords with each one of these. Add a note in, add 2 notes in, color it any way you want. You get hundreds of chords just with these 6 diagrams. Move them either by root movement or by melodic movement. And there's a world of colors right in this with the 6. So great. So thanks for watching. And on our next lesson discussion, we're going to talk about 7ths. See you then.